Making a good offer on a house here in Milwaukee has been a little bit of a challenge as of lately in this shifting and changing market. You have a lot of money at stake, usually not a whole lot of time. And how exactly are you supposed to know how much to offer either above list price or below list price in order to not overpay on the house, but also to get the house? Especially if the condition is less than perfect, and on the other hand, you still see there's a lot of interest in the house. So that's literally the $1,000,000 question. I'm sure you've heard about people paying way over list price. So is this still a thing? How do you navigate this? How do you best do this? This is the topic for today. My name is Marcus Auerbach, and together with my team, I'm one of the top producing agents here in Milwaukee, which means a lot of deals are going across my desk every month. And if you've been following my monthly market updates here on YouTube, then you already know that in 2024, we have been seeing more inventory than in previous years, and that is slightly improving the odds for buyers, and we really needed that. Now, when you look at the market today, it creates that very interesting dynamic where some listings are still going very, very hot, and other deals are offering and sometimes quite substantial discounts. So the question is always, which one is it? Which one are we looking at here? So today I want to go over the most common mistakes that buyers are making, the mindset and some of the psychology behind this, and then also talk about how to correctly approach the topic. How do you determine the best offer price when you're making an offer on a house? And then, of course, because I'm a data guy, we're going to take a look at the latest data from the MLS, because I know for every single house that has sold in Milwaukee so far, how much over or under list price that has sold, and I want to share the data with you today. Let's get started with the most common mistake that buyers are making. It seems pretty obvious when you think about it, but I do see it on a daily basis. Buyers are just quickly jumping to the conclusion or assuming that list price equals fair market value. And then they base their entire decision-making framework on this faulty assumption. Instead, you should really pause and ask the question, what is actual fair market value of this property? And then compare it to the list price, because it could be higher or it could be lower. Knowing what the fair market value of a property is takes a lot of experience, and it also changes over time. For example, when mortgage rates are changing, that all has an impact. I have an advantage here because of the sheer number of deals that I see on a regular basis. It gets pretty obvious when on a listing you see multiple offers and most of them are clustered around a number. That is what the market is willing to pay at this given point in time for this property, and that is literally the definition of fair market value. So how does this play out in reality? Some agents will actually put the list price of a property on purpose below the fair market value. This is a very common marketing strategy. We use it all the time because it produces really good results for our sellers. When you set the list price of a property below fair market value, you're attracting a lot of buyers that are eager to see the property quickly on the first weekend and put their offer in. And usually you end up with multiple offers. This could be 3 offers, 5 offers. We've seen as much as 15 or more offers. And of course, at this point, it becomes a race to the top. The other scenario is, of course, that the listing is overpriced. The seller is simply asking more money than the market is willing to pay for it. And in this case, the listing will sit on the market, usually for several weeks, until finally the seller reduces the price to what the market is thinking is at least within reasonable range of what fair market value is. This is also sometimes a missed opportunity for buyers, because instead of waiting for the seller to reduce the price, you can approach the seller with an offer that's closer to what we think is fair market value. Of course, it is important to present that offer in that fashion so the seller is not taking it the wrong way and is not being insulted by it. In reality, we see list prices all over the map. The real estate market is just not super efficient in establishing always the correct list price because there are so many human factors that are playing a role here. For example, you could have an ego-driven seller that has a wrong perception about what their property is really worth, or you could have a seller that is very motivated, and combine that with a new or inexperienced listing agent, and then you understand why prices are sometimes all over the map. I think in all fairness, it's also important to say that it's not always super easy to determine fair market value on a property, especially if it's not in a uniform neighborhood where one house looks like another and you don't have really good comps, you have different ages, different sizes, different features on properties, then it can become a little bit more challenging to establish the correct fair market value. At this point, we have to talk a little bit about human psychology and human emotions. A lot of buyers feel very successful and great about themselves if they got an offer accepted for less than list price. After all, it's a very competitive market. They were able to negotiate a discount. That's really a reason to celebrate. On the other hand, if a buyer had to pay over list price, they oftentimes feel defeated. And it gets even worse when they're talking to family members who have not been in the real estate market for a decade or so, and they have to tell them we offered $30,000 over list price. At this point, the family members are likely going to question their sanity. The problem with emotions is that it really doesn't mix well with money or with financial issues. Ask any stockbroker if it's a good idea to make an emotional trade. When emotions are getting in the way of your financial decision making, my recommendation is always the same: look at the data. In this case, fair market value. Benchmark everything on fair market value and not on the list price. I'll give you an example. It is entirely possible to negotiate a discount of $20,000 off list price. But what if I told you that the fair market value is really $50,000 lower than the list price? In this light, it's not really a great deal. On the other hand, it's really tough when you have to go over list price because you feel you're being forced to pay more on a property than it's actually worth, right? When you look at it through the lens of what is actually fair market value, this gives you a different perspective of reality. Think of it this way. Let's say it took you $25,000 over list price in order to get a house under contract. Let's say there were multiple offers, 5 or 6, and 3 of them had offered a similar price as you did. Now you got the offer accepted. These 3 other guys are really bummed out. They're thinking we should have offered $5,000 more. If you change your mind and you don't want the house anymore, and you would hypothetically ask these 3 guys if they want it, they would take it happily off your hands. This is the very definition of fair market value. So how do you know what fair market value is when a property just hit the market? The answer is you have to ask your buyer's agent to prepare a CMA, a comparative market analysis for you. So if you would ask me what the fair market value of a random duplex in Tosa or a condo downtown is, I couldn't tell you. I have to first see the property in person and then go back and spend some time on my computer and actually put a formal CMA together. Which brings me to the next point, and that is data. So I spent a lot of time analyzing data on MLS, and you can find out some interesting things. In 2023, for example, in the first 3 months of the year, we have seen about 55% of all listings sell competitively on the first weekend. And selling competitively means usually 3 to 5% over list price, waiving a lot of contingencies. And in some markets, Whitefish Bay, Wauwatosa, West Allis was a really stunning surprise last year. It could go as much as 10% over list price. Now, in the first 3 months of 2024, we are looking at a very different picture. Only about 25% of the listings have sold so far on the first weekend. So this means you have a 1 to 4 chance that the listing that you're looking at on a Saturday could still be here on a Monday and Tuesday, and you could get away potentially with offering a lower price. So the market is always changing, and you have to keep an eye on the data. All right, final question, and most importantly, wouldn't it be nice to know how much other people have paid for their houses here in Milwaukee in the recent months? And we actually have the data. Let me show you. So on this chart, every little blue dot represents a listing that has already closed this year. And you can see the horizontal axis is days on market, so 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, all the way up to 100 days. And obviously a lot of these dots are bunched together on the left side. That means they went under contract on the first weekend or in the first week. And no surprise there, a lot of these dots are above the list price. So people paid $10,000, $20,000 or $30,000 over list price. But you might also notice that a lot of them went under contract relatively quickly in a few days, and they accepted an offer that is below the asking price. So getting this right as a buyer can not only mean the difference between getting an accepted offer or being a rejected offer, it also can mean the difference between $20,000, $30,000 or $40,000 in your ultimate purchase price. I'll give you a second to pause this video if you want to study the chart for a second longer. This is actually straight out of our brand new Milwaukee Home Buyer's Guide that has a lot of tips and tricks on how to gain a competitive edge, walks you through how the home buying process works from A to Z, what all the individual steps, and a lot more of good information. You can download that for free on our website, onpointrg.com. And if you want to have a chat with me, we're actually onboarding new clients all the time. A lot of people are sending me an email after they have watched some of my videos, and you can do that at m.auerbach@kw.com. I would love to hear from you, and that's actually all I got for you today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.